Hi, I'm Scott Miller. I'm the Artistic Director of New Line Theater, and I'm here talking with Todd Schaefer, who's our resident set designer, and also the set designer for The Wild Party. So the first thing I want to talk about, I tell a lot of people that you improv our sets, because that sounds funny. And it's sort of true. So how much is it true? How much is it not true?
It's sort of true. I think it depends mostly on the set we're doing. You know, the show kind of sometimes will call for something very, very specific, or it'll, you know, or you'll take an approach on it that allows it to be a little bit more abstract. The abstract sets are the ones that I get to improv a little bit more. Like this one for Wild Party, it is rather abstract, and it's not, you know, it's one of those shows where you're not asking for those four walls, you know, and a lot of times when you get boxed in by the four walls, there's less improv you can do. This one was very floaty. You can improv in a floating set.
So, do you have in your head right now an exact picture of what this looks like at the end?
Now I do. This one we started with the aerial, so I had kind of tilted it that way and really seen it, but I've been doing a lot of drawing lately, so now I've got an idea. And it's a little different than I had anticipated, but I went online and I was looking up, I was trying to think of, you know, when has this building been built? And so I kind of determined it'd be like an 1880s, you know, building. And so I went and looked up a bunch of 1890s architectural features that we're going to throw some 20s stuff onto. And then, of course, you know, you wanted it all crazy and weird looking too on top of it. So, but that's how I got the structural part of it. It starts taking stuff from, you know, some rounded top archways, and they're like above the windows and stuff was a feature of some of the fancier buildings back in the 1880s, 1890s, because I would think this would be a more dilapidated building because it's 40, 50 years old at this point.
And in Manhattan.
Yeah, Manhattan.
Which is an old city. So, Wild Party is a little different in that we have these huge full cast dance numbers.
Yes.
And we need space in the middle. So we're putting a lot of the set on wheels.
Yeah. So we can move and shift.
Which kind of makes the floor plan a different endeavor.
It doesn't give you a whole lot. It doesn't give you a whole lot of definition in the set, you know. But that's where the actors really create that, which I love. You know, I love that. And it's a period piece, so you're going to get the cool costumes become a part of that set and the look, and they kind of fill it out. But this is one of those where the floor painting is going to be huge. That's what I've been working on the most. Is what pattern to throw on that floor so that it kind of tricks you into thinking there's levels where there aren't, you know, and give you dynamics and dimension and stuff where there isn't any, which is what I'm teaching my students right now. You know, how to force dimension when it isn't there. And
Todd is also a drama teacher at Webster High School.
And they're doing that right now. They're trying to learn how to take something that's very two-dimensional and really push the dynamic of dimension where it doesn't exist, which is kind of what we do in theater all the time. You know?
Yeah. Well, so talk about this in contrast to Spelling Bee, which you also did the set for, which had very little specific requirements.
But was much more concrete, because nothing moved in that one.
Right, that's true.
That one was also, you give me two very abstract shows, you know, kind of on top of each other that both have very similar rules. You know, imaginary walls holding up the space that we're in. Supposed to having those, you know, those solid walls, which really make a difference. Because we had thought, you know, that spelling was supposed to take place in a gymnasium. Right. So, you know, you're supposed to have those gymnasium walls, the big, you know, big industrial doors, and we took all that away. So we had to get that gymnasium some other way, which was a very abstract way in which we got there.
And the space we're in right now, because the audience is raked, the floor, the deck of the stage is even more important than it is in other spaces.
Yes.
Because the audience can really see the deck.
You see it so much better. That's what I loved about doing the hair side, too. That was so little, really done, but it had such a great impact because you saw everything. There's not a bad seat in that house, at that theater.
Yeah.
You know, everyone sees every nook and cranny of the set at all times, which is really great.
And the other thing about Wild Party is we are suggesting a real place, a New York apartment, but at the same time, we're going to be relatively unreal about it.
Yeah, I mean, you're defining this because I've got 3 or 4 elements that are going to give us those walls. Probably more so than, way more so than spelling bee. But yeah, it is going to move within that. We're going to create some new looks within that space, which I think would be kind of fun. Nothing really moved in spelling bee. Everything stayed. The actors were the only thing that moved. But yeah, you need some big open floor space for dancing.
We do.
So everything just goes into a big
and for passing out drunk and.
But I'm excited for Wild Party because I love the fact that this one is kind of going in the direction that Assassins did for you in a way where things got stretched. Things, and I love what that says about Wild Party too, where these people's version of reality and what's going on outside of this room is just so demented. The whole world isn't like this room, but this room is really screwed up, and I love that.
Well,
because it is wild. It creates kind of a jungle.
Right. We've discovered in rehearsal that sometimes we're almost playing as if there is a fourth wall. I mean, sometimes there are these very intimate, personal scenes where we don't acknowledge the audience at all. Other times in the show, we're coming downstage, facing the audience, and narrating to them. So it's both naturalistic and totally Brechtian.
Yeah, I think you'll get that too. I mean, when you're in those scenes, I think the set is going to get you into that room, and when you need to break free from it, it's going to have that freedom and that openness to kind of let it be very Brechtian. We're not lying to them at all. This is going to be a play that we're doing for them.
Right. So what's your kind of overarching effect or takeaway?
Honestly, from after you emailed me that original poem, the Wild Party poem, and it seemed as though that is the room is that it's wild. It's supposed to be a jungle, and so I think a lot of that 20s is going to come in the draping of fabrics and beads hanging and lanterns hanging, and one of the windows in the set is hanging, where there's this kind of airiness between the elements, kind of like when you're walking through a jungle, leaves hanging in your face and everything, the vines, everything from the jungle hanging. So it's going to be hopefully kind of a dangling feel. Everything's kind of draping. So which kind of also is what blood does when it runs. But wild, and the shapes of things in this is going to be very wacky and wild. So nothing makes sense. Nothing is going you're going to follow a line and it's not going to go where you think it's going to go, which is the show. It doesn't go where you think it's going to go.
Yeah.
By any means. But the improv set building, I think, really, it comes from trying to do sets very frugally. Is that a word? Frugally? And save money. So you go in and you go into the scene shop and you've got this show in the back of your mind and you're looking at all these pieces. And of course, a lot of times, because this happens at the high school too, a lot of them have remnants of old shows on them even. But you're just kind of going by shape, and you're so what do you got? You kind of lay everything kind of out in your mind, and then how do you use it in a new way? How do you restack it, or what do you need to add to get a new look out of it? But that's pretty much the improv process in doing the sets, where you don't go in and say, give me a sketch pad, I want to draw this, this is the set I want, and then go in and make it happen. It's it's almost a reverse process. And we do that at the high school a lot because of phones,
Right.
You have your stock, and you don't have money to go and build 8 new platforms, to do this great set that's in your head.
It always turns out so cool when you do it.
And I have more fun doing it too. We just did Wind Over Buffalo at the high school, and it was a total puzzle piece set, and we improv'd our way through it, and it was glorious because it was supposed to be an old, rundown basement,
right.
And it's well, it looked old and run down because nothing matched up. It was awesome. It was very, very rough.
Yeah.
This one, unfortunately, we're going to build from scratch for the most part because we don't have any of these pieces. Everything's got to be skewed, so we're going to build it all fresh.
Right.
I'm excited. Next thing is
I am too.
Deciding upon color palette, which I've got a couple,
nice.
Interesting color palette.
All right, well, come see the Wild Party. It's going to be cool. Thanks for talking with us, Todd.
Thank you.